So, Charles, tell us how this sequel came about.
Well, it was an interesting thing that when Dolphin Tale succeeded as well as it did, some, I think one of the producers, the idea was floating around about a sequel, and we all looked at each other and thought, it can't be done. No one's ever really done, I don't think, a sequel to a true story. But I began to think about it and think about all the other things that have happened at that aquarium. And I thought, well, maybe you could build a sequel. Maybe I could come up with a story that would, tie everything together and take Winter's story, which is so inspirational, and start to expand on it, and maybe a little extra inspiration.
Now, you got a lot of the original cast together, so
Yeah.
was that a difficult process on this one, or was it easy?
I gather it was actually fairly easy. Obviously, the producers were the ones that reached out to the actors and said, Charles is writing a sequel, and we'll direct it, and do you want to take part? And they all answered yes, which was really flattering, I say.
Yeah. And in writing these characters, how did you approach writing these character stories now that it's been 3 years later?
One of the great things about writing these characters now is that I knew I had the actors back. And that's a luxury as a writer you almost never get. I knew when I was writing the scenes for Dr. McCarthy, I know it's going to be Morgan. I can hear his voice. I know how he talks. I know his cadences, and I could actually write the dialogue knowing each actor and knowing them, not just watching them, but having worked with them on set and having directed them and know what they really can bring. That was a joy. I had so much fun writing this because I knew who was going to be playing the parts.
Now, you've got a bit of a little role in this film as well. Did you cast yourself in that role?
Actually, no. I had written the part, and I didn't really have an actor in mind. And then it was, I think Steve Wegner, one of the producers at Alcon, had read an early draft, and he said, you know who should play this part? I said, no, who? He said, you. I thought, oh man, do I really want to do that? But I haven't acted in a while, and I thought that might be fun. It might be fun. So I did, yeah. And of course, I had all my scenes with Harry Connick, and Harry is just such a great guy, and he's a really good actor. I had a blast.
Oh, that's great. Now, how does this story differ from the first story?
The first film, Dolphin Tale, was actually a very simple story, and it really focused on the idea of family and community and everyone working together to try to save this, beautiful little dolphin. In Dolphin Tale 2, there's much more going on. There are more stories. There are more animals. There's obviously hope being brought in, which was true. The release of Mandy in the middle of the film, another new dolphin character, and that's true. That really happened. The turtle release, which I didn't have in the first film, and I really wanted to do. So I wrote a turtle character. And of course, I had to do something with Rufus, because everybody loved Rufus from the first movie. And I think of all the characters I've ever invented, Rufus is my favorite. So I thought, what am I going to do with Rufus in the sequel? I thought, I know, Rufus falls in love. And I thought, well, falling in love with another pelican isn't that interesting. How about a turtle? That sounds like something Rufus would do. So Rufus becomes the protector of this wonderful turtle. I had so many different plots to weave in and out, and themes of time passing and children growing up, and old dolphins getting older and young dolphins being born, and the aquarium growing up. So that all of these themes I was able to weave them together into this film, and I'm really proud of it.
And speaking of the aquarium, how did the first film impact the aquarium?
I was absolutely floored when I realized the effect that first film had on so many people. They began flooding into Clearwater, and people coming to see Winter. I mean, attendance just soared at that aquarium, and I had never anticipated that. I mean, it's really gratifying, but I had never in a million years thought that would happen. It was really something to watch. It was kind of humbling, actually. Because when you make a movie, obviously you reach people, but I think that movie reached people in a different way. And I think there's a sense of inspiration that people got from Dolphin Tale. And boy, as a filmmaker, that's gold.
Now, in shooting, because you shot most of this at the aquarium, or a lot of it at the aquarium,
Yeah.
how did you balance out their day-to-day efforts that working with the animals that they have there in the production?
Well, the people there at CMA, all of the Dolphin team that's there, and David Yates, who sort of runs the aquarium, they were all a part of the movie. In fact, David Yates is an executive producer on the film. So they really went out of their way to kind of juggle the schedule around and make sure that we could film and that everything went very, very smoothly. They would stay open on the weekends because they don't want to keep the public away. They want to come, people want to come there. And then we would film during the week. And actually, we had it down to a really good routine.
Good.
It was good.
And in working with these animals,
Yeah.
What are your feelings on the animal-human connection?
Well, there is an amazing connection, particularly with Winter and Hope, with the people that are there. However, as I emphasize in the movie, these are wild animals. You know, they're not pets. And the other thing that I really wanted to emphasize in Dolphin Tale 2 is the mission of rescue, rehab, and release. And I really want people to come away from this movie understanding that if at all possible, all of these animals should be in the wild. They should be released into the wild if at all possible. Winter never could be. She wouldn't survive. Neither could Hope. But that's one of the reasons I wanted to put the release of Mandy in there. This really happened. That was a dolphin that they rehabbed. She was fine. She was healed, and they released her into the wild, and she's still out there, and she's still happy, and that's the goal. That's what should happen.
Right. And lastly, so you sort of mentioned it. What do you hope that people will take away from this film, from the sequel?
Well, there's so many themes in the film about family and about children growing up and about the fact that we're all in this together and the bonding of the two dolphins, that, you know, our interpersonal relationships are really the most valuable thing we have in life. But I also hope that they have some thought about man's relation to nature and our responsibility to the oceans and to these animals. You know, poor Winter lost her tail because it was wrapped in a crab trap in a rope. And that crab trap was put there by a human being. And so I think we have a responsibility to these animals. And certainly at CMA, you see that, the love and the care. And I'd love people to leave the film thinking about that. And perhaps maybe a few young marine biologists that will see the movie and it'll change their lives.